The alarm system screamed across the orbital defense platform above New Busan. Private Dong Hyun jumped from his chair, his coffee spilling across the console. His hands moved quickly over the screens, checking the sensors again and again. 7 ships had just appeared in space, and they were not human ships. Commander Tae Yang to the bridge immediately. Dong Hyun spoke into the communication system, trying to keep his voice steady. This was his first year in the Terran Defense Coalition, and he had never seen alien ships before. Nobody had. Humanity had been alone in space for as long as they had traveled among the stars. Commander Tae Yang arrived within 2 minutes. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples, and his uniform was always perfectly neat. He had served in the military for 23 years, but even he stopped and stared at the display screens. The alien ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They were long and sleek, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed along their sides. "Get me Captain Ji-won," Tae Yang said calmly, "and send all sensor data to Earth Command immediately. Use the quantum link, Priority Alpha." Captain Ji-won rushed onto the bridge 5 minutes later. She was the station's intelligence officer and first contact specialist. Though she had never expected to actually make first contact, she had studied alien communication theories for years, but it had always been theoretical. Now theory was becoming reality. The alien ships moved closer to New Busan. They arranged themselves in a pattern that looked military and threatening. Tae Yang knew a battle formation when he saw one, even if it came from an alien mind. "Open all communication channels," Ji-won said, sitting at her station. "All frequencies, all methods. If they want to talk, we need to give them every possible way to reach us." They did not have to wait long. A signal came through on standard radio frequencies. Then a voice spoke in perfect human language, though it sounded wrong, like someone speaking through water. "Primitive humans of this world," the voice said. "I am Scout Commander Thelvax of the Velthran Dominion. We have claimed this star system in the name of the Dominion. You have 48 hours to surrender all military assets and submit to Dominion authority. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your colony. You cannot win. You cannot fight. You can only choose to live as subjects of the Dominion or die as fools." Silence filled the bridge. Dong Hyun felt his heart pounding. He looked at Commander Tae Yang, expecting to see fear or anger. Instead, the commander looked thoughtful, almost curious. "Interesting," Tae Yang said quietly. "They learned our language somehow, but they don't know anything about us." He turned to Ji-won. "Open a channel." "Let me speak to this Thelvax." Ji-won pressed several buttons. "Channel open, Commander." Tae Yang stood straight, hands behind his back. "Scout Commander Thelvax, this is Commander Tae Yang of the Terran Defense Coalition. We received your message. We are always interested in meeting new species and establishing peaceful relations. However, we cannot surrender to anyone, as we are not at war and have committed no crimes. Instead, I invite you to send representatives to New Busan's surface to discuss proper diplomatic procedures. We can arrange a meeting within 6 hours." There was a long pause. Then Thelvax's voice came back, and it sounded amused. "You wish to negotiate the terms of your surrender? Very well, this will save us time. We will send a shuttle to your colony. Prepare to receive us." The communication ended. Tae Yang immediately turned to his staff. "Contact Earth Command again. Tell them we need full reinforcement protocols activated immediately. Every fleet, every base, every reserve unit. Send the codes. Also wake up the garrison below. I want every soldier ready, every vehicle operational, every defense system online, but keep everything underground and hidden. Let our visitors think we're just a simple mining colony." "Sir?" Dong Hyun asked nervously. "Are we really going to fight them? Their ships look much more advanced than ours." Tae Yang smiled slightly. "Private, we're not going to fight them. We're going to show them why fighting us would be the worst mistake they ever made. There's a difference." He looked at the alien ships on the display. "They think we're weak because we asked to talk. They think this is just one small colony with no real defenses. They have no idea what humanity actually is." Captain Ji-won was already working at her console, reviewing the scans of the alien vessels. Her face grew more serious as she analyzed the data. "Commander, their technology is significantly advanced. Their weapons could destroy this platform in minutes. Their shields are stronger than anything we have. If these are just scouts, their main military must be incredibly powerful. Then it's good we're not planning to fight them alone," Tae Yang said. He pulled up a different display, one that showed star charts of human space. 15 star systems, hundreds of colonies, thousands of installations. They're about to learn that humanity doesn't believe in small armies or weak defenses. We learned our lessons the hard way back on Earth. We nearly destroyed ourselves in wars that killed billions. When we finally unified and went to the stars, we made a promise. Never again would humanity be weak. Never again would we be unprepared. Over the next 6 hours, New Busan transformed. What had looked like simple mining operations in small towns began to reveal their true nature. Massive doors opened in mountainsides, showing hangar bays filled with military vehicles. Underground barracks that could house 50,000 soldiers came online. Artillery positions rose from beneath false ground cover. The defense satellites in orbit, which had seemed old and outdated, activated military-grade sensor arrays that had been hidden inside civilian casings. Dong-hyun watched it all happen and felt a sense of pride he had never experienced before. He had known New Busan was a military outpost, but he had not understood the scale. The colony could support an entire army if needed. Every building had been designed with defense in mind. Every road could quickly convert to move military traffic. Even the schools and hospitals had emergency functions as command centers and field medical stations. The alien shuttle landed at the designated coordinates. 2 Veltron soldiers emerged wearing armor that shimmered with energy fields. They were tall, with scales covering their skin and eyes that were large and golden. The one in front carried himself with absolute confidence. This was Sub-Commander Krellnin, Thelvax's second-in-command. Captain Ji-won met them at the landing pad, along with an honor guard of human soldiers. She wore her dress uniform and smiled politely. "Welcome to New Busan. If you'll follow me, we have a conference room prepared." Krellnin looked around at the colony with barely hidden contempt. He saw simple buildings, civilian vehicles, and what appeared to be miners going about their work. Everything confirmed his expectations. This was a weak frontier settlement with no real military capability. Ji-won led them not to a surface building, but to an elevator that went deep underground. Krellnin's confidence began to fade as they descended level after level. The elevator opened into a massive command center that gleamed with holographic displays and advanced computer systems. Hundreds of personnel worked at stations, coordinating military operations. Screens showed data from across the entire star system and beyond. "Please have a seat," Ji-won said pleasantly, gesturing to a conference table. "Can I offer you refreshments while we wait for proper authorization from Earth? You see, New Busan is just one of our smaller outposts. Any major diplomatic decisions require approval from our central government, which is based on our homeworld. The message has been sent. We should receive a response in a few hours." Krellnin sat down slowly, his eyes still taking in the command center. This was not what he had expected. Not at all. He activated his scanning equipment secretly, trying to gather more data about the facility. What he discovered made his blood run cold. This command center was just the beginning. His scans showed massive installations spreading throughout the planet's crust. Sub-Commander Krellnin returned to the scout fleet with data that troubled him deeply. He stood before Scout Commander Thelvax in the command chamber of their flagship, trying to explain what he had discovered on New Busan's surface. "Commander, the humans are not what we expected," Krellnin said, displaying holographic images from his scans. "This colony has military installations far beyond what a frontier mining settlement should possess. Underground facilities, advanced communication networks, weapons stockpiles. I detected power signatures that suggest they can support a garrison of at least 50,000 soldiers." Thelvax waved his clawed hand dismissively. "Of course they have some defenses. They probably built them after detecting our arrival. It is a desperate attempt to appear strong. Primitives always try to bluff when they face superior force." He had commanded 23 conquest campaigns for the Veltron Dominion. He had seen this pattern many times before. A weak species discovered the Dominion's power and scrambled to look dangerous. It never worked. "But sir, the construction is not new. These facilities are years old, perhaps decades. The integration with civilian infrastructure is too sophisticated to be recent, and their communication technology is remarkable. They use quantum-linked systems that send messages faster than light itself. We do not have this capability." Thelvax finally looked interested. "Faster than light communication? You are certain?" "Yes, Commander. I recorded multiple quantum bursts being transmitted to other star systems, at least 15 different destinations. If they truly control 15 star systems, their civilization is much larger than our initial intelligence suggested." Thelvax considered this information. The Dominion controlled 43 star systems, conquered over 2 centuries of careful military expansion. If these humans already controlled 15 systems, they were not primitive newcomers to space. But that did not mean they were strong. Many species had spread across multiple worlds while remaining militarily weak, relying on isolation and luck for protection. It changes nothing, Thelvax decided. They have more colonies than we thought. That makes them a richer prize, not a greater threat. Continue monitoring their communications. I want to know what they are saying to their other worlds. What Thelvax did not know was that humanity's communications were saying a great deal. Across 15 star systems, military bases received emergency activation codes. Reserve units were being called up. Fleet commanders were pulling their ships from routine patrols and forming into battle groups. Shipyards were shifting to wartime production schedules. On Mars, Admiral Hyojin stood in the command center of the Third Fleet, watching her ships prepare for immediate departure. She was a veteran officer who had served in the Terran Defense Coalition for 31 years. She had trained for this moment her entire career, though she had always hoped it would never come. Humanity's first contact with an alien species, and it was hostile. All ships report ready for jump, Admiral, her operations officer reported. How many ships do we have? Hyojin asked, though she already knew the answer. 247 warships, Admiral. From corvettes to carriers. We can be at New Busan in 6 hours. Hyojin nodded. Send the order. All ships jump in coordinated pattern. I want us arriving in formation, not scattered. We're going to make an impression. Similar scenes were playing out across human space. Near the colony of New Seoul, Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo was mobilizing the 5th Fleet. In the Tau Ceti system, the 8th Fleet prepared for departure. Reserve flotillas that normally protected individual colonies were consolidating into larger forces. Every ship that could fight was being sent to New Busan. This was the purpose of the Terran Defense Coalition. Humanity had learned from its bloody history on Earth. For thousands of years, human nations had fought each other in wars that grew increasingly devastating. The final conflicts had nearly destroyed human civilization entirely. When humanity finally unified and reached for the stars, they carried that terrible knowledge with them. Never again would humans be caught unprepared for war. Never again would they be weak enough to tempt aggression. Every human colony had defenses. Every star system had fleets. Every citizen received military training. The entire civilization was designed around one principle: peace through overwhelming strength. Back on New Busan, Commander Taiyang received updates from Earth Command every few minutes. The reports were encouraging. More ships than he had dared hope for were responding to the emergency. He pulled up a tactical display showing the approaching fleets. 200 ships here, 300 there, 150 from another system. The numbers kept growing. Captain Jiwon entered his office carrying a data pad. Commander, the Velthran scout ships are actively scanning our quantum communication bursts. They know we're talking to other systems, but their technology cannot intercept the actual messages. They're probably very curious about what we're saying. Let them be curious, Taeyang said. They'll find out soon enough. How long until the first reinforcements arrive? Admiral Hyojin's 3rd Fleet will be here in 4 hours. After that, ships will be arriving constantly for the next 2 days as forces from more distant systems make the journey. Taeyang smiled. 4 hours. Then we can stop pretending to be a helpless colony and show these Velthrons what humanity actually looks like when we're threatened. Aboard the Velthron flagship, Krellnin was monitoring the quantum communication bursts with growing anxiety. The volume of traffic was enormous. The humans were coordinating something across their entire civilization. He enhanced his sensors, trying to detect any ships approaching the system. Commander, he said urgently, interrupting Thelvax's meditation. I am detecting spatial distortions at the edge of the system. Multiple distortions. Something large is about to emerge from hyperspace. Thelvax moved to the sensor station. How large? A few patrol ships? A defense squadron? I cannot determine yet. The signatures are very unusual. More than I expected. Krellnin worked his instruments frantically. The distortions were growing stronger, more numerous. His display started showing estimated counts. 10 ships. 20. 50. The numbers kept climbing. Then the first ships emerged from hyperspace. They appeared in a perfect geometric formation. their arrival coordinated with precision that spoke of excellent training and sophisticated communication. These were not panicked defenders arriving randomly. This was a planned military deployment. Admiral Hyojin's Third Fleet had arrived. 247 warships of various classes filled the space near New Busan. The smallest corvettes were 100 meters long. The largest carriers stretched over 2 kilometers, their hulls bristling with weapons and fighter launch bays. Thelvax stared at the display in disbelief. 200 ships? They brought 200 ships? 247, Commander, Krellnin corrected, his voice shaking. And I am detecting more spatial distortions. More ships are coming. The Fifth Fleet emerged an hour later, 312 vessels arriving in the same coordinated fashion. Then the Eighth Fleet. Then reserve flotillas from a dozen different colonies. Ships kept appearing, filling the space around New Busan with human military power. Thelvax's 7 scout ships were designed for reconnaissance and intimidation, not combat. Each carried powerful weapons and advanced shields, enough to destroy small defense forces or bombard planetary targets. But they were scouts, meant to gather information and deliver ultimatums while the main invasion fleet prepared. The main Veltron invasion fleet consisted of approximately 2,000 warships. It was the largest military force the Dominion had ever assembled, gathered over decades of conquest. It represented the full might of 43 star systems. With that fleet, the Dominion had crushed every opponent they had ever faced. By the time the human reinforcements stopped arriving, over 800 warships surrounded New Busan. 800. And they were still coming. More distant fleets would arrive over the next several days. Krellnin performed calculations with trembling hands. Commander, if this is their response to 7 scout ships threatening 1 colony, what would they send if we actually invaded? How many ships do they have in total? Thelvax had no answer. His entire understanding of this situation had been wrong. These were not primitive spacefaring newcomers. These were not isolated colonies with limited defenses. This was a mature military power that could deploy overwhelming force at a moment's notice. Open a communication channel to Dominion High Command, Thelvax ordered, his voice strained. Urgent priority. We need to report that our initial intelligence was completely inaccurate. We need to report that humanity is far more dangerous than we imagined. In the space around New Busan, the human fleet maintained perfect formation. No ship moved aggressively toward the Veltron scouts. No weapons were charged or targeting systems locked. The message was clear without any words being spoken. Humanity could destroy the scout ships in seconds if they chose to. But they were choosing not to. They were choosing to wait and see what the Veltrons would do next. The 48-hour deadline passed. Scout Commander Thelvax sat in his command chamber, staring at displays that showed an impossible situation. The 7 Veltron scout ships were surrounded by over 800 human warships, with more arriving every few hours. He had sent urgent reports to the Dominion High Council, but responses would take days to arrive. The Dominion did not have faster-than-light communication like the humans did. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet, Krellnin reported. They are requesting you speak with their admiral. Put it through, Thelvax said. He had no other choice. His scout force could not fight this fleet. They could not run either. Human ships were positioned at every possible escape route. The eye display showed a human woman wearing a dark blue uniform with gold markings. She had black hair pulled back neatly, and her eyes were calm and intelligent. This was Admiral Hyojin, commander of the human Third Fleet. Scout Commander Thelvax, she said in his language, though her pronunciation was much better than his had been when speaking to humans. I am Admiral Hyojin of the Terran Defense Coalition. Your deadline has expired. Do you intend to attack our colony? Thelvax felt humiliated but tried to maintain dignity. Admiral, our initial assessment of this situation was incorrect. We were not aware of humanity's military capabilities. I have requested new instructions from my government. I see, Hyojin said. While you wait for those instructions, I have been authorized to show you something. We want you to understand exactly what you almost started. We want you to take information back to your Dominion, so they can make informed decisions about future interactions with humanity. A data package appeared on Thelvax's systems. It was enormous, containing detailed military information about human forces across all 15 star systems. Normally, such intelligence would be impossible to gather, requiring years of espionage. The humans were simply giving it to him. "We are sending you complete tactical data on our military deployment," Hyejin continued. "Ship counts, fleet positions, base locations, personnel numbers. Study it carefully. Share it with your leaders. We want the Velthron Dominion to understand that attacking humanity would not be a conquest. It would be a catastrophe for everyone involved." The transmission ended. Thelvax immediately began reviewing the data, and what he saw made his heart sink. The human military was vast beyond anything he had imagined. 47 full battle fleets comprising over 15,000 warships, 3.2 billion active military personnel, 450 million reserves who could be mobilized within weeks, 8,000 fortified installations across 15 star systems. "This cannot be accurate," Thelvax whispered. "No civilization maintains such excessive military force. The cost would be astronomical." Krellnan was reviewing the same data. "Commander, I am cross-referencing their claims with our sensor readings. The ships we can see match their reported specifications exactly. They are not lying or exaggerating. If anything, they might be underreporting their true strength." While the Velthron scouts tried to process this information, General Sung Min was coordinating ground force deployments on New Busan's surface. He was the supreme commander of Terran Defense Coalition ground forces, and he had arrived on a transport ship carrying 50,000 Marines and their equipment. "Expand the defensive perimeter to include all colony approaches," he ordered his staff. "I want artillery positioned on every hilltop, tank divisions ready to deploy within 15 minutes. Air support on constant patrol. If those alien ships try to attack this colony, they will not get a single shot through to civilian areas." The underground facilities beneath New Busan had been designed for exactly this purpose. Massive vehicle bays held thousands of tanks, armored transports, and mobile artillery pieces. Barracks that seemed too large for a colony this size were now filled with soldiers. The entire military infrastructure had been built years ago, maintained carefully and hidden carefully. Now it revealed itself. Lieutenant Jae-hee and her fighter squadron launched from the carrier TDS Incheon, joining thousands of other fighters, creating a defensive screen around the planet. She was a skilled pilot who had trained for 7 years but had never seen combat. None of humanity's military had seen real combat. All their training, all their preparation, had been for a war that had never come. Until now. "Stay in formation," her squadron leader commanded over the communication channel. "We are not engaging unless they attack first. Our job is to look professional, disciplined, and ready. We are sending a message without firing a single shot." The fighter screen was impressive. 5,000 small craft moving in perfect coordination, their paths controlled by advanced computer systems that kept them from ever colliding, despite the tight formations. Each fighter carried weapons that could damage capital ships. Together they represented firepower that could devastate a small fleet. Thelvax watched the fighter deployment with professional appreciation. The humans were showing excellent military discipline. Every ship was exactly where it should be. Every formation was textbook perfect. This was not a hastily assembled defense force. This was a professional military that trained constantly and took their duties seriously. "They are not trying to intimidate us with aggression," Krellnan observed. "They are intimidating us with competence. Look at that fleet coordination, look at those fighter patterns. They could have surrounded us in threatening positions, but instead they are maintaining defensive formations that protect their colony. They are showing us they are strong, but not that they are seeking to attack us." Thelvax nodded slowly. "It is more frightening than aggression would be. An aggressive enemy might make mistakes we could exploit. A disciplined enemy with overwhelming force leaves us no options at all." On the colony surface, civilian elder Hyunwoo was organizing evacuation procedures for the parts of the population that were not military personnel. He was an old man who had helped found New Busan 40 years ago. He had always known the colony, had military purposes, but he had never seen the full extent until now. "All civilians to the deep shelters," he announced over the public address systems. "This is not a drill. Take only essential items. The military needs room to operate, and we need to be where we cannot be harmed if combat begins." Families moved, quickly and calmly into the underground shelter networks. These too had been prepared long ago. Food supplies for months, medical facilities, schools that could continue operating underground, entertainment systems to keep people occupied, life support that could function independently even if the surface was destroyed. Humanity did not believe in halfway measures when it came to protecting their people. The soldiers watched the civilians evacuate with grim determination. These were their families, their friends, their neighbors. This was what they had trained to protect. Every man and woman in uniform knew why they served. They had all learned history in school. They had all studied the wars that nearly destroyed Earth. They had all sworn oaths to prevent such disasters from ever happening again. More ships continued to arrive. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo brought his command carrier into orbit around New Busan, positioning it at the center of the growing armada. He was the overall commander of all human forces in this sector, and he began organizing the fleet into proper defensive arrays. "I want interlocking fields of fire," he ordered. "Every ship should be able to support at least 3 others if combat begins. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready but not locked. We are making it clear that we can defend ourselves, but we are not making the first hostile move." The tactical displays in his command center showed the complete picture. Human forces now outnumbered the Velthron scouts by more than 100 to 1. If fighting started, it would be over in seconds. But that was not the goal. The goal was to make fighting unnecessary. Kyung-soo opened a channel to Admiral Hae-jin. "Status report? All ships in position, Fleet Admiral. Ground forces deployed. Civilian evacuation 90% complete. We are ready for any contingency." "Good. Now we wait. We let them think about what they have seen. We let them imagine what fighting us would mean, and we hope they are intelligent enough to choose peace." Private Dong-hyun had been at his post for over 30 hours now, surviving on coffee and determination. He watched his sensor displays, tracking every ship, every movement. He had counted over 800 human warships around New Busan. He had seen the ground forces deploy, the fighters launch, the defenses activate. He had watched his tiny mining colony transform into a fortress that could withstand anything. He thought about the alien commander on those scout ships. What must that commander be feeling right now? He had come to conquer what he thought was a weak target, and instead found himself facing the full might of human military power. Dong-hyun almost felt sorry for him. But then he remembered the alien's first message: surrender or die. No diplomacy, no attempt at peaceful contact, just a demand for submission. That was not how civilized species should treat each other. Humanity had learned that lesson through centuries of war and suffering. Perhaps these Velthrons needed to learn it too. Ambassador Bora arrived at New Busan 3 days after the initial contact. Her ship, the TDS Seoul, was a massive diplomatic vessel that could serve as both conference center and command post. It was protected by advanced shields and weapons, because humanity had learned that diplomats needed to negotiate from positions of strength. Bora was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 30 years in diplomatic service, negotiating treaties between human colonies, resolving disputes and preparing for the day when humanity would finally meet another intelligent species. She had always hoped that day would come peacefully. Instead, it had come with threats of conquest. Scout Commander Thelvax and Sub Commander Krelnin arrived at the Seoul in a small shuttle. As they approached, they could see the human fleet surrounding them. Over 800 warships, thousands of fighters, all maintaining perfect formation. The display of military power was impossible to ignore. They were escorted to a large conference room with windows showing the stars and the human fleet beyond. A holographic display dominated the center of the room, currently showing neutral star charts. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo and Admiral Hae-jin were already seated at the table, along with General Sung-min. Commander Taeyang and Captain Ji-won represented the New Busan forces. Bora greeted the Velthrons with perfect courtesy, as if they had not threatened to destroy a human colony just days earlier. "Welcome, Scout Commander. Please sit. Can we offer you refreshments? We have water and several other beverages that our scientists believe are compatible with your biology." Thelvax sat carefully in a chair designed for human proportions. "Thank you, Ambassador. I appreciate your hospitality. especially given the circumstances of our meeting. Yes, let us discuss those circumstances, Bora said, her tone becoming more serious. She activated the holographic display, which began showing detailed information about human military forces. You came to New Busan expecting to find a weak colony that would surrender easily. Instead, you found this. The display showed the current fleet positions. Over 800 warships with more arriving daily. You have been reviewing the tactical data we provided. Tell me, Scout Commander, what do you think of humanity's military capabilities? Thelvax chose his words carefully. Your forces are significantly larger than we anticipated. The Velthran Dominion has conquered 43 star systems over the past 2 centuries. In all that time, we never encountered a species with military strength comparable to our own. Now we find that humanity exceeds our strength by a substantial margin. By how much? Bora asked directly. Krellnan spoke up, his voice quiet. Based on the data you provided, humanity maintains approximately 7 times the number of warships that the Dominion possesses. Your ground forces are 30 times larger than ours. Your industrial capacity for producing military equipment is beyond anything we can match. Bora nodded. Those numbers are accurate. Now I will tell you something even more important. Do you know how much of our total civilization resources we dedicate to military purposes? I would estimate 30 to 40%, Thelvax said. Such a large military must consume enormous resources. 8%, Bora said calmly. We maintain this entire military force using only 8% of our economic output. Our shipyards could triple warship production within months if necessary. Our training facilities could double the size of our military within a year. What you see now is not humanity stretched to its limits. This is humanity at peacetime readiness. The Velthrans absorbed this information in shocked silence. Their own military consumed nearly 40% of the Dominion's resources. They could not expand significantly without causing economic collapse. Yet humanity maintained a vastly larger force using a fraction of their civilization's capacity. Why? Thelvax asked. Why maintain such excessive military power? You must have peaceful neighbors. You could reduce your forces and improve your civilian economy. We have no neighbors, Bora replied. Until 3 days ago, we thought we were alone in the galaxy. We built this military not to conquer others, but to ensure no one could ever conquer us. Let me show you something. The holographic display changed to show Earth, humanity's homeworld. It rotated slowly, showing blue oceans and green continents. This is where we come from. For most of our history, we lived only on this one planet. And we spent that history killing each other. Images appeared showing ancient battles, medieval wars, industrial warfare, and finally the devastating conflicts of the 21st and 22nd centuries. Cities turned to ash, billions dead, a planet nearly destroyed by its own inhabitants. We nearly destroyed ourselves, Bora continued, not because of alien invasions or natural disasters, but because of our own conflicts. We fought over land, resources, ideas, beliefs. We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We came within moments of ending human civilization completely. Thelvax watched the images of destruction with a professional soldier's understanding. He had seen war. He had caused death. But the scale of human self-destruction was staggering. Eventually we learned, Bora said. We unified our species. We stopped fighting each other. But we carried the lessons of those wars with us to the stars. We learned that strength prevents war better than diplomacy alone. We learned that overwhelming defensive capability makes aggression pointless. We learned that the best way to ensure peace is to make war too costly for anyone to consider. The display changed again, showing human military deployments across 15 star systems. Every human citizen receives military training. Every colony has defenses. Every system has fleets. We built all of this so that we would never again be vulnerable, so that no enemy, human or alien, could ever threaten our existence. General Sung-min spoke for the first time. You came to New Busan expecting easy conquest. You expected us to surrender because fighting would be hopeless. You expected us to be weak and afraid. Instead, you found strength that made fighting us the hopeless option. That is exactly what we designed our military to achieve. A deterrent, Krellnan said quietly. Your entire military structure is designed as a deterrent to prevent war rather than to wage it. Correct, Bora confirmed. We would prefer never to use this military in actual combat. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon exists to prevent violence rather than cause it. But make no mistake, if we are attacked, we will respond with overwhelming force. We will not accept conquest. We will not accept subjugation. We will fight with every resource we possess. Thelvax felt a weight settling on his shoulders. He understood military strategy. He understood that the Velthron Dominion, if it chose to attack humanity, would be destroyed. The Dominion's 2,000 warships could not defeat 15,000 human vessels. The Dominion's 100 million soldiers could not conquer a civilization with over 3 billion troops. It would not be a war. It would be suicide. What do you want from us? He asked. You have shown us your strength. You have made it clear that we cannot defeat you. What happens now? Bora's expression softened slightly. What happens now is that you return to your Dominion and report everything you have seen. You tell your leaders that humanity exists, that we are strong, and that we wish for peaceful relations with all species. You tell them that we will defend ourselves if attacked, but we have no desire to conquer anyone. You tell them that the galaxy is large enough for both our civilizations to thrive without conflict. And if my leaders decide to attack anyway? Thelvax asked. Some members of the High Council believe the Dominion must conquer all potential rivals before they become threats. Then they will learn a very painful lesson, Fleet Admiral Kyungsu said bluntly. We have shown you our peacetime forces. If you attack us, you will see our wartime capabilities. We will mobilize every reserve unit. We will convert civilian industry to military production. We will build ships faster than you can destroy them. And we will not stop until the threat is eliminated completely. We do not want this outcome, but we are absolutely prepared for it. Admiral Hyojin added, we are also prepared to offer an alternative. Humanity has advanced defensive military technology, but we know the Dominion has technology in other areas that we lack. We could share knowledge instead of fighting. We could establish trade routes instead of battle lines. We could learn from each other instead of trying to destroy each other. The choice is yours to present to your leaders. Lieutenant Jae-hee, monitoring the meeting from the fighter pilot ready room, discussed the situation with her fellow pilots. Do you think they will choose peace? A young pilot asked. They will if they are intelligent, Jae-hee replied. We showed them overwhelming force without using it. We gave them information instead of attacking them. We offered cooperation instead of demanding surrender. If they still choose war after seeing all that, then they are not intelligent enough to be reasoned with. Private Dong-hyun, still at his post on the defense platform, watched the diplomatic vessel through his sensors. He hoped the talks were going well. He was tired of the fear and tension. 3 weeks had passed since the initial contact between humanity and the Velthron Dominion. Scout Commander Thelvax had returned to Dominion space with his ships, carrying complete records of everything he had witnessed at New Busan. The Dominion High Council had reviewed the data in shocked silence. Their assumptions about humanity had been catastrophically wrong. Now a new ship approached New Busan, but this one flew under a formal peace banner according to protocols that humans and Veltrons had quickly established. The vessel was larger and more ornate than the scout ships, clearly designed for diplomatic purposes. Aboard was High Counselor Veltron, the leader of the Veltron government. Ambassador Bora received the news with surprise. The High Counselor himself is coming? That is a significant gesture. They are taking this very seriously. Commander, Tae Yang, who had been present for the original contact, nodded. They should take it seriously. They almost started a war they could not win. Now they need to decide how to proceed. The human fleet around New Busan had reduced somewhat, with many ships returning to their normal duties. But a substantial force remained, over 300 warships, as a reminder and a continued demonstration of human capability. The Velthrons needed to understand that humanity's military strength was not temporary or unusual. This was normal for humanity. High Counselor Veltron was an older Velthron with deep blue scales and eyes that showed both intelligence and weariness. He had led the Dominion for 18 years, overseeing 5 successful conquest campaigns. He had believed the Dominion was the greatest military power in the galaxy. The discovery of humanity had shaken his entire worldview. He met with Ambassador Bora aboard the TDS Seoul, accompanied by Thelvax and several other advisors. Bora had assembled her own team, including Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo, General Sung-min, and Captain Ji-won, who had become the resident expert on Veltron culture and communication. High Counselor, welcome, Bora said formally. We are honored that you came personally to meet with us. Veltron's translator device converted his words to human language. Ambassador, I came because this situation is too important to handle through intermediaries. Your existence has changed everything for the Dominion. We must discuss how our two civilizations will interact going forward. We are ready to discuss any proposals you wish to present, Bora replied. Veltron gestured, and one of his advisors activated a holographic display showing maps of both human and Velthran space. For 2 centuries, the Dominion has expanded through conquest. We believed this was necessary for our security. We conquered potential threats before they could threaten us. We took resources to make ourselves stronger. This strategy worked because every species we encountered was weaker than us. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Then we encountered humanity. A civilization that is not weaker than us. A civilization that is significantly stronger. And we realized that our entire strategy was based on a false assumption. We were not the supreme military power in the galaxy. We were simply the strongest force in a small region that had not yet met any real competition. Admiral Hyojin, who had been listening carefully, spoke up. You are concerned that if humanity exists, other powerful civilizations might also exist in unexplored regions of space. Your conquest strategy works against the weak but would be disastrous against equals or superiors. Exactly, Veltron confirmed. If we had attacked your colony at New Busan, we would have started a war that would destroy the Dominion. Your military could have crushed us. We were fortunate that you chose to demonstrate your strength, rather than simply destroying our scout ships and then counterattacking our territory. We do not want to conquer your territory, Bora said firmly. We have no desire to rule over other species or take your resources. Our military exists for defense, not aggression. We built it to protect ourselves, not to threaten others. I believe you, Veltron said. I have reviewed all the data Scout Commander Thelvax collected. Your military deployments are defensive in nature. Your doctrines emphasize protection of your own space rather than invasion of others. Your entire civilization structure is designed around security, not expansion. This is very different from how the Dominion operates. He leaned forward, his expression serious. I have come to propose something that the High Council debated for many days. Something that some Velthrans consider shameful, but I consider necessary for our survival. I propose a mutual defense pact between humanity and the Velthran Dominion. The human delegation exchanged surprised glances. This was not what they had expected. Bora recovered quickly. A mutual defense pact? Can you explain what you envision? The Dominion will cease all conquest activities, Veltron said. We will negotiate with species we previously planned to conquer, seeking peaceful relations instead. In exchange, humanity will share defensive military technology with us and agree to come to our aid if we are attacked by an outside force. Together, our civilizations will be secure against any potential threat. General Sung Min looked skeptical. Why would we agree to defend the Dominion? Your civilization has conquered dozens of species. You came to our space with threats of destruction. Now you want us to protect you? Because the alternative benefits no one, Veltron argued. If the Dominion collapses due to external threats, the power vacuum will create chaos across 43 star systems. Billions of beings, including the species we conquered, will suffer. If the Dominion tries to continue its old conquest strategies and encounters another powerful civilization like humanity, we will be destroyed and again create chaos. But if we work together, we can create stability across a large region of space. Captain Jiwan, who had been taking notes, asked a key question. What about the species you have already conquered? What happens to them? Veltron hesitated, then answered honestly. That is a difficult question. The Dominion rules over many species. Some joined willingly, seeing benefits in our protection and trade networks. Others were conquered and resent our authority. We cannot simply give them all independence immediately without creating conflict and possible civil wars. But we could begin a process of gradually increasing their autonomy, giving them more control over their own affairs while maintaining the overall structure that provides stability. Bora considered this proposal carefully. She looked at her military advisors, who were also thinking through the implications. Finally, she spoke. High Counselor, this is a significant proposal that requires consultation with our government on Earth. However, I can tell you my initial thoughts. Humanity is willing to share defensive technology with peaceful species. We are willing to establish trade and diplomatic relations with the Dominion. We might even consider a mutual defense pact, but with conditions. What conditions? Veltron asked. First, the Dominion must commit to a clear timeline for giving more autonomy to conquered species, Bora said. We will not support an empire built on oppression. Second, the Dominion must establish peaceful relations with its neighbors and prove that commitment over time. We will not defend aggressors. Third, any defensive pact must include transparent monitoring. We need to verify that both sides are honoring their commitments. Veltron nodded slowly. These conditions are reasonable. They will be difficult for some Dominion factions to accept, but I believe I can convince the High Council that this path is better than the alternatives. Over the next several hours, they discussed details and possibilities. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo suggested joint military exercises to build trust and understanding between the two militaries. This was actually part of human diplomatic strategy. By training together, by learning each other's capabilities and doctrines, the two civilizations would become less likely to misunderstand each other and more likely to work together effectively. Lieutenant Jae-hee received notification that she and her fighter squadron had been selected for the first exchange program with Velthron pilots. She was excited and nervous. Training with aliens who had tried to conquer her home just weeks ago would be strange, but she understood the larger purpose. Every interaction, every shared experience, would make future conflict less likely. Private Dong-hyun, watching the diplomatic ship from his sensor station, felt relieved. The crisis was truly ending. The aliens were not enemies anymore. They were becoming something else, something new. He thought about his great-grandparents again, who had lived through humanity's worst wars. They had dreamed of a future where strength prevented conflict rather than causing it. That future was happening now. On New Busan's surface, civilian elder Hyun-woo was coordinating the return of civilians from the deep shelters to their normal homes. The military was reducing its visible presence, putting the tanks and artillery back into underground storage. The colony would return to looking like a simple mining settlement, though everyone now knew the truth. New Busan was a fortress, ready to become a military stronghold again within hours if necessary, but hopefully that would never be needed. Commander Tae-yang and Scout Commander Thelvax met privately in New Busan's diplomatic quarter, which had been hastily established in a building that used to be a warehouse.